In the Imperium of Man, the law is said to be eternal. It is written in stone, carved into prayer, and enforced by guns that never stop firing. From the highest spire of terror to the lowest gutter of a forgotten hive world, the Emperor's justice is meant to reach all things. That is the story the Imperium tells itself. That is the lie that keeps billions obedient. Because there are places where the law does not arrive. Places where the light of the Emperor weakens, thins, and finally dies. In those shadows, something older and more honest waits. Not rebellion. Not freedom. Survival. This is where the black markets are born. They do not appear suddenly. They grow slowly, like rot inside a wall. At first, it is just small exchanges. A ration card traded for medicine, ammunition swapped for information, a broken lasgun repaired with parts that should not exist. Nothing dramatic, nothing worth reporting. The administrator would not notice even if someone tried to tell them. Paperwork moves slowly. People die faster. As years pass, the trades deepen. The goods become stranger. The silence becomes heavier. And one day, without announcement, the black market is no longer hidden. It is simply accepted. Everyone knows where it is. No one says its name. On hive worlds, these markets often exist far below the surface, beneath levels where sunlight has never touched metal. The air is thick with chemical fog and recycled breath. Pipes drip fluids no one can identify. The walls sweat. Here, the population is packed so tightly that people sleep standing, leaning against rusted beams. Children learn early how to disappear into crowds. Adults learn how to stop asking questions. In these depths, the black market does not need guards. Hunger protects it. Desperation keeps it alive. A narrow corridor opens into a chamber that was once a cargo bay centuries ago. Its original purpose is forgotten. The floor is uneven, cracked by age and stress. Flickering lumen strips cast sickly yellow light that never fully reaches the corners. Shadows cling to the edges like living things. The smell is a mix of oil, blood, incense, and decay. People arrive alone or in pairs, never in groups, never loudly. Conversations are whispers, lips barely moving. Every person keeps one hand close to a weapon, even children. Especially children. No currency changes hands openly. Thrones are too traceable. Instead, payment is made in favors, data slates, gene samples, stolen ident codes, or sealed containers whose contents are never discussed. What matters is not value, but leverage. A man with a hood pulled low over his face offers something wrapped in cloth. A woman with augmetic eyes examines it without touching. Her gaze lingers for a second too long. The item hums softly as if reacting to her presence. She nods once. The deal is done. Neither smiles. This is not a place for joy. The first rule of the black market is silence. Not just silence of voice, but silence of memory. What you see here should never be spoken of outside these walls. People who forget this rule tend to disappear. Sometimes their absence is noticed. Most times, it is not. The second rule is distance. No names are shared. No origins are confirmed. Everyone lies, and everyone knows everyone is lying. Truth is dangerous. Lies are safer. Lies are currency. The third rule is fear. Fear keeps the market balanced. Buyers fear the sellers. Sellers fear their suppliers. Everyone fears the unseen watchers. Because there are always watchers. Some say the enforcers know and look away, bribed or exhausted. Others whisper that the Inquisition itself monitors these markets, allowing them to exist as traps, a way to draw out heretics, mutants, and the desperate. No one knows which rumor is true. No one wants to find out. From time to time, the fear becomes real. A scream echoes through the chamber. Sharp, sudden, too loud. Conversations stop instantly. Bodies freeze. Weapons appear in hands like reflexes. Eyes turn toward the sound. In the center of the market, a young man is on his knees. His hands are shaking. His mouth is open, but no sound comes out now. Something is wrong with his face. The skin around his eyes is moving, as if something beneath it is trying to escape. A merchant steps forward. Tall, wrapped in layered robes reinforced with metal plates. His voice is calm, almost bored. "You opened it," he says. The young man shakes his head violently. Tears streak down his cheeks. "I didn't know," he whispers. "I swear I didn't know." The merchant gestures slightly. Two figures emerge from the shadows. Their faces are hidden behind smooth, expressionless masks. They grab the young man's arms and lift him effortlessly. The skin around his eyes splits open. Something black and wet forces its way out, writhing. The screaming starts again, louder this time. Someone turns away. Someone else vomits. No one intervenes. This is not cruelty. This is order. The merchant speaks again, addressing the crowd. "The goods are sealed for a reason. Curiosity is expensive. The figures drag the still, screaming man into a side corridor. The sound cuts off abruptly. The market resumes. Deals continue. Fear settles back into place. In the Imperium, death is common. Here it is instructional. Not all black markets are so open. Some are mobile, shifting locations constantly. A cargo ship that never docks at the same port twice. A pilgrim convoy that trades relics beneath the altar. A drifting space hulk whose corridors rearrange themselves between visits. On void stations, markets exist in pressurized sections long abandoned by official traffic. The stars outside are cold and uncaring. Inside, traders float slightly due to failing gravity systems, tethered by cables and chains. Blood droplets drift slowly through the air when deals go wrong. The silence of space makes everything feel louder. Every breath, every click of metal, every whispered promise. Here, the fear is different. More contained, more personal. A trader might offer a navigation chart to a supposedly safe warp route. The buyer knows it might be false, might be cursed, might lead straight into a storm that screams. But the alternative is worse. Staying where they are means starvation, or discovery, or slow suffocation. So the deal is made. This is how the black market survives. By offering hope that feels just barely safer than certainty. What makes these markets truly terrifying is not the goods or the violence. It is how normal they become. How easily people adapt. How quickly horror turns into routine. A mother brings her child along, teaching him how to spot undercover agents. A veteran guardsman trades stories of war for replacement limbs. A priest quietly purchases unregistered candles that burn with the wrong color flame. No one comments on these things anymore. The market becomes a community. A sick one. A necessary one. And the Imperium allows it, because somewhere in a distant spire, a scribe marks a quota as fulfilled. Somewhere else, a commander receives supplies that officially do not exist. Somewhere higher still, someone decides that crushing this market would cost more lives than letting it breathe. In the grim darkness of the far future, morality is a luxury. The black market is not rebellion against the Imperium. It is a symptom of it. A mirror showing what happens when survival is valued more than truth. And once you understand that, once you step into that chamber of flickering light and whispered deals, you realize something far worse than fear. You realize this place was never hidden. It was always meant to exist, and it is waiting for you. The things sold in the black markets of the Imperium are not displayed proudly. They are hidden, wrapped, sealed, muted, not because they are fragile, but because they are dangerous even when unseen. A simple glance can be enough to change a person. A moment of contact can follow someone for the rest of their life, however short that life becomes. Most buyers arrive thinking they know what they want. Ammunition, medicine, spare parts, something practical, something survivable. They tell themselves they will ignore the darker tables, the sealed crates, the objects that seem to bend the light around them. That confidence rarely lasts long. The first thing people notice is the sound. Some objects hum quietly, like insects trapped behind metal walls. Others click and tick in patterns that almost resemble language. There are items that make no noise at all, yet still feel loud somehow, pressing against the skull, making it hard to think clearly. Veterans of the black market learn to recognize these sensations and step away quickly. Newcomers do not. A trader opens a case just enough to reveal what is inside. A weapon of Xenos origin, sleek and organic in shape, its surface shifting slightly as if breathing. The metal is warm, too warm. Runes crawl along its frame, rearranging themselves when no one is looking directly at them. The trader does not explain how it works. He does not need to. The weapon pulses once, and everyone nearby feels it in their chest. A guardsman reaches for it and hesitates. He has seen lasguns fail. He has watched comrades die because Imperial equipment arrived too late or not at all. This weapon promises certainty, power, survival. The trader warns him only once, not with words, but with a look that says the truth is already too heavy to carry. The guardsman takes it anyway. Weeks later, if he survives that long, he will start dreaming of stars arranged in impossible shapes. He will wake up knowing things he was never taught. He will begin to hesitate before pulling the trigger, not because he is afraid, but because the weapon sometimes decides before he does. Other goods are less obvious but no less disturbing. Augmetic limbs salvaged from dead tech. Priests sit on metal racks, still wired with data cables and half prayers. Some twitch when approached. Others lock rigidly into place, as if offended. Buyers are warned not to install them alone. The machine spirits inside remember loyalty. They remember devotion. Being attached to an unworthy body often results in malfunctions that feel deliberate. There are implants that improve vision, but show things that should not be seen. Auditory enhancements that hear whispers no human voice could produce. Neural upgrades that increase reaction time, but erase memories to make room. The traders always speak in half-truths. They never lie completely. Lies are dangerous. Truth carefully cut is safer. Then there are the sealed items, small containers marked with symbols scratched in haste, vials wrapped in prayer strips from a dozen different faiths. Books sealed with chains, wax, and locks that are never opened in the open market. Everyone knows better than to ask what is inside. The asking itself draws attention. Occasionally, someone does not know. A young clerk, barely old enough to shave, stares too long at a small black cube resting on a cloth. It absorbs light instead of reflecting it. His curiosity overwhelms his fear. He reaches out. The trader's hand snaps down on his wrist with surprising speed. The grip is iron cold. The trader shakes his head slowly. "Not for you," he says. The clerk laughs nervously and steps back, heart pounding. He does not notice that the cube has shifted slightly, its surface rippling as if disappointed. Living goods are rarer, but they exist. Mutants with useful abilities are sold quietly, always sedated, always restrained. Psychers too unstable for official sanction are traded like volatile explosives. Sometimes entire cages are hidden behind curtains, their occupants silent not because they are calm, but because they have learned silence is the only way to live. The worst are the things that were once human, changed so thoroughly that the word barely applies anymore. Failed experiments. Warp-touched survivors, servitors modified beyond legal limits, their organic components still aware enough to suffer. No one lingers near these sales, and yet they sell. Because in the black market, morality is measured against survival, and survival always wins. The people who sell these things are just as unsettling as the goods themselves. No one becomes a black market merchant by accident. Those who try rarely live long enough to regret it. To survive in this world, a trader must be adaptable, paranoid, and willing to sacrifice parts of themselves piece by piece. Many do so literally. Flesh is weak. Flesh bleeds. Flesh can be identified. Metal is quieter, more reliable, easier to hide behind robes and armor. Over time, most merchants replace eyes, hands, lungs, even portions of their brains, not out of faith, like the Mechanicus, but out of necessity. Survival, not worship, guides their transformation. Some go further. Masks fuse permanently to faces, hiding mutations that would bring execution if seen by the wrong eyes. Rebreathers that never come off because the air outside burns altered lungs. Voices filtered through vox grillers, layered with distortion to hide tone, age, even gender. There are traders who do not blink, traders whose shadows move half a second too late, traders whose reflections in polished metal do not match their movements. Everyone notices. No one comments. Rumors circulate quietly, passed in fragments. Some merchants are not human at all. Disguised Xenos playing a long game. Demonic entities bound into physical shells, feeding on desperation. Former inquisitors who fell too far to return and now sell secrets instead of burning them. Whether any of these rumors are true does not matter. The fear they create is real enough. The most dangerous merchants are the calm ones. They never raise their voices, never threaten openly. They remember every face, every deal, every hesitation. They know what people want before they ask. They know what people fear before they admit it to themselves. A noble approaches one such merchant, cloaked and surrounded by hired protection. He wants something rare, something illegal even by black market standards. The merchant listens patiently, head tilted slightly, as if listening to something else as well. When the noble finishes speaking, the merchant nods once. "It exists," he says, "but not for you." The noble bristles. He offers more, threatens consequences. His guards shift uneasily. The merchant simply waits. After a long silence, the noble leaves. Pale, shaken, he does not explain why. Weeks later, his household is purged by the Inquisition for crimes no one ever specifies. Some say the merchant tipped them off. Others say the merchant simply knew it was coming. Deals in the black market are never just exchanges of goods. They are tests. Every transaction reveals something about the buyer, their fear level, their patience, their limits. Information is gathered constantly, quietly, invisibly. There are no coincidences here. Even violence follows rules. When a deal goes wrong, it is handled quickly, cleanly, publicly enough to be remembered, but not enough to draw outside attention. A sudden knife, A suppressed shot, a body dragged away before the blood cools. The market does not pause for long. It cannot afford to. Fear must be maintained, but chaos must be controlled. Some traders act as mediators, settling disputes with whispered conversations and subtle threats. Others serve as executioners, called only when negotiation fails. These individuals are rarely seen and never approached. Their presence alone is enough to end arguments. Everyone knows someone is always watching, whether it is a hidden Inquisition cell, a chaos cult observing potential recruits, or something older and less defined. The sense of being observed never fades. Vox interference spikes without reason. Servo skulls drift too close. Shadows linger where they should not. The black market survives not by hiding from power, but by weaving itself into it. Information flows upward. Goods flow sideways. Corruption seeps everywhere. And the merchants stand at the center of it all, half human, half something else, quietly shaping lives with every transaction. By the time a buyer realizes the cost of what they purchased, it is already too late. The merchant has moved on, the stall has vanished, the market has shifted, and somewhere in the darkness, another sealed crate waits to be opened by someone desperate enough to try. Because in the black markets of Warhammer 40K's, nothing is sold without purpose, and no one leaves without being changed. They are called merchants, but that word is a lie people use to feel safer. In the black markets of the Imperium, the sellers are often more terrifying than the goods themselves. Items can be dropped, destroyed, or abandoned. Merchants endure, they remember, and they change. No one knows where the first black market trader came from. Some claim they were once ordinary citizens who made one desperate deal too many. Others believe they were criminals who learned how to survive longer than expected. There are darker rumors too, whispered only when the air is loud enough to hide them. Stories of beings that were never fully human, only pretending long enough to learn how mankind thinks. What is certain is this: no one becomes a black market merchant and remains human for long. At first, the changes are practical. A replaced eye that can see heat signatures and hidden weapons. An augmetic hand that can crush bone if negotiations fail. Reinforced lungs that filter poison from the air. These modifications are not worn with pride like those of the Adeptus Mechanicus. They are hidden beneath robes, cloaks, and layers of scavenged armor. Faith has nothing to do with it. Survival does. Over time, the line between necessity and obsession blurs. Merchants learn that flesh betrays them. It ages. It scars. It leaves traces that can be tracked. Metal is cleaner, more reliable, easier to repair. Many traders slowly replace more than they need, not because they must, but because they no longer trust the weakness of their own bodies. Some remove their faces entirely. Masks fused directly to bone are common. Smooth, expressionless plates of ceramite or scavenged plasteel. Others wear stitched leather masks, pulled tight and never removed, even in private. No one knows what lies beneath. Few want to. A merchant without a face cannot be identified, cannot be remembered clearly. Witnesses give conflicting descriptions. Memories blur. This is intentional. Voices are altered as well. Vox grillies distort tone and pitch, making it impossible to tell age, gender, or emotion. Some merchants speak through layered recordings, their words arriving half a second apart, echoing unnaturally. Others use monotone voices that never rise or fall. Even when threatened, it unsettles buyers. That is the point, but not all changes are mechanical. Prolonged exposure to forbidden goods leaves marks no augmetic can hide. Warp-touched relics bleed corruption slowly, invisibly. A trader who handles such items daily begins to feel it seep into them. Dreams become crowded. Shadows move when they should not. Sometimes reflections blink independently. These merchants still function. They still bargain. But something inside them has shifted. Something watches from behind their eyes. The black market does not reject them. It adapts. Some traders develop habits that make no sense to outsiders. Counting steps between stalls, touching charms before every deal, whispering prayers in languages no longer spoken anywhere in the Imperium. These rituals are not religious in the traditional sense. They are anchors, ways to stay themselves for just one more day. Others abandon restraint entirely. There are merchants whose skin is marked with symbols cut too deep to heal properly. Merchants whose blood is the wrong color. Merchants who flinch when holy icons are brought too close, not out of fear, but discomfort. These individuals are tolerated because they are useful, because they know things no one else does. Utility outweighs purity in the black market. Some merchants are not individuals at all, but collectives, several minds linked through illegal neural implants, sharing memories and decisions instantly. When you speak to one, you are speaking to many. Their gaze feels heavy, as if multiple people are judging you at once. Negotiating with such a trader is exhausting. They know when you hesitate. They know when you lie. They know when you consider violence before you do. There are also merchants who appear too human. They smile, they joke, they speak warmly, almost kindly. Newcomers often gravitate toward them, relieved to find something familiar in this place of fear. Veterans avoid them at all costs, because kindness in the black market is a mask sharper than any blade. These merchants specialize in slow corruption. They sell harmless items at first. Food supplements, clean water filters, medical supplies. They remember names, they ask about families. They build trust carefully, patiently. Then one day, they offer something else. Something small, something safe. And that is how people disappear into deeper circles of the market without realizing it. There are whispers that some merchants are not merchants at all, but watchers, agents of chaos cults, quietly identifying those weak enough to recruit. Dark Elder scouts trading pain devices in exchange for information about undefended populations. Even the Inquisition, it is said, sometimes wears the mask of a trader, allowing corruption to gather so it can be burned all at once. No one knows which rumor is true. Every merchant could be a trap. This uncertainty shapes every interaction. Buyers weigh every word carefully. Too eager, and you look desperate. Too cautious, and you look suspicious. Either can get you killed. The most terrifying merchants are those who do nothing. They sit behind empty tables. No goods on display. No signs. They watch the crowd silently, unmoving. People feel their gaze, even when they do not look directly at them. Sometimes, after a long while, the merchant will gesture to someone. Just once. Those who follow rarely return unchanged. Some return richer, more powerful, more confident. Others return hollow, quiet, avoiding eye contact. They leave the market shortly after and are never seen again. Violence involving merchants is rare, but when it happens, it is swift and final. A buyer pulls a weapon too openly. A disagreement escalates. For a brief moment, tension spikes. Then the merchant makes a signal almost too subtle to see. The buyer collapses. Sometimes it is poison released into the air. Sometimes a hidden weapon fires. Sometimes the buyer simply stops moving, eyes wide, blood trickling from nose and ears. Psycho defenses triggered without warning. The body is removed. The area cleaned. Trade resumes. No one questions it. Merchants are protected not by guards, but by reputation. Everyone knows harming one brings consequences far worse than death. Supply lines vanish. Safe routes become dangerous. Names appear on lists they should not be on. The black market remembers everything. Some merchants have been active for decades, others for centuries. Longevity like that does not come without a price. They accumulate enemies, debts, secrets heavy enough to crush lesser minds. Many are tired. You can see it in the way they stand, the way they pause before speaking, as if checking themselves for cracks. Some have forgotten what they were before. Others remember too well and drink heavily to silence the memories. Yet they remain, because there is nowhere else to go. A merchant cannot return to Imperial society. Too many laws broken, too many faces remembered by the wrong people, too many secrets known. The Imperium does not forgive, it erases, so the merchant stays in the shadows, becoming part of the market itself. A fixture, a constant. Over time, some stop seeing buyers as people at all, just variables, risks, resources. Others cling desperately to small gestures of humanity. A fair price here, a warning there, quietly refusing to sell certain items to certain buyers. These small mercies cost them, but they keep them sane, or at least closer to sane than the alternatives. In the end, the merchants of the black market are not villains in the simple sense. They are survivors who learned the rules of a broken system and exploited them better than most. They are mirrors reflecting what the Imperium creates when it values obedience over care, control over compassion. They are what happens when humanity is forced to adapt too far, too fast, for too long, and when you stand before one, negotiating your future in whispered tones. You realize the most disturbing truth of all. The merchant is not judging you. They are measuring how long it will take before you become one of them. No one enters the black market thinking they will pay more than they can afford. That is the first lie everyone tells themselves. At the start, the price always seems reasonable. a crate of ammunition in exchange for stolen ident codes, a vial of medicine for a favor to be called in later, a piece of forbidden technology for information that feels unimportant at the time. The exchange feels clean, controlled, even fair. The black market encourages this feeling. It wants buyers to believe they are still in control, but payment in the black market is never finished when the deal is made. It only begins there. Some prices are immediate and obvious. Thrones transferred through untraceable channels, physical goods exchanged hand to hand, blood drawn for gene verification. These are the easy costs, the ones people expect. They are comforting in their simplicity. The real price comes later. A guardsman buys illegal ammunition that punches through armor too easily. It saves his life during a boarding action. He tells himself the risk was worth it. Weeks later, the weapon jams at the worst possible moment, unless he whispers to it first. He does not remember learning the words, but he knows them. When he stops whispering, his hands begin to shake. A factory worker trades information for medicine to save her child. The medicine works. The child recovers. Then the worker starts noticing unfamiliar symbols scratched into the walls of her hab. She does not remember carving them. Her neighbors begin avoiding her. Enforcers knock on her door one night, asking questions they should not know how to ask. A noble purchases a relic said to grant protection from assassination. Assassination attempts stop immediately, so do invitations, so do messages. People forget to acknowledge him in public. Servants resign without explanation. His reflection begins to lag behind his movements, just slightly. He is safe, but increasingly alone. The black market never lies about the effectiveness of its goods. It lies about their consequences. Sometimes the price is physical. Illegal augmetics enhance strength, speed, and endurance, but they were not calibrated for the buyer's body. The pain never fully fades. Nerves burn constantly. Sleep becomes difficult. Removal is impossible without killing the user. Over time, the buyer stops noticing the pain not because it is gone, but because something else has taken its place. A numbness deeper than flesh. There are weapons that demand maintenance no manual explains. They must be fed rare fuels, or biological matter, or emotional states. Owners learn to comply instinctively. They stop questioning why certain urges appear before combat. They stop questioning why the weapon feels heavier when ignored. Other prices are psychological. People who use forbidden goods begin to think differently. Decisions feel faster, sharper, but narrower. Empathy fades. Doubt becomes irritating. The buyer tells themselves they are becoming efficient. Others notice they are becoming cruel. Sleep brings dreams that feel too structured to be random. Recurring locations, recurring voices, sometimes instructions, sometimes warnings. Ignoring them leads to migraines, nosebleeds, sudden panic. Listening brings relief. At first, the black market calls this adjustment. Then there are prices that are social. A buyer's name appears on lists it should not be on. Not arrest lists, worse, watch lists. The kind shared quietly between organizations that do not officially cooperate. Doors close without explanation. Promotions stall. Transfers are denied. The buyer becomes stuck, unable to move forward or backward. Friends drift away. Conversations end abruptly when the buyer enters a room. Rumors circulate, vague and unprovable. The buyer is not accused of anything specific. Suspicion alone is enough. Sometimes, the black market itself collects payment. A favor is called in. The buyer is asked to deliver a package without opening it, to provide access to a secure area for a few minutes, to look the other way during a routine inspection. Each task seems small, manageable. Refusal feels unreasonable after everything already received. The buyer tells themselves they will stop after this one. The tasks escalate. The black market is patient. Some prices are delayed for years. A former buyer lives a relatively normal life, believing they escaped the market cleanly. Then, decades later, during a routine medical scan, something is found. An implant they do not remember receiving. A dormant organ. A mark beneath the skin that does not appear in Imperial records. Questions follow. Investigations begin. The buyer cannot explain. Ignorance is not a defense. Other prices are generational. Children inherit consequences they never agreed to. A mutation expressed later in life. A genetic marker that draws unwanted attention. A debt transferred quietly, officially non-existent but very real. The child grows up with a sense of being watched, of being evaluated. Sometimes, the price is faith. People who rely on black market goods begin to doubt imperial doctrine, not out of rebellion, but practicality. They have seen the Emperor's systems fail. They have survived because of forbidden alternatives. Prayers feel less certain. Sermons sound hollow. This doubt festers. It does not always lead to heresy. Sometimes it leads to something worse. A quiet, empty belief that nothing truly matters beyond survival. That morality is situational. That loyalty is transactional. The Imperium fears open rebellion. It fears quiet indifference far more. There are buyers who try to escape the price. They destroy the goods they purchased. They sever contacts. They relocate. They change names. Some even turn themselves in, hoping confession will cleanse them. It does not work. The black market does not need physical proximity to collect what it is owed. The damage is already done. The buyer has been altered. Their path has shifted, their future rewritten in small, irreversible ways, and sometimes the price is immediate and absolute. A deal goes wrong. A buyer attempts deception. A payment is delayed too long. The response is swift, unforgiving, executed not with anger, but with efficiency. Bodies disappear. Records are altered. Witnesses forget what they saw or convince themselves they imagined it. Life continues. The market remains stable. What makes the price truly horrifying is not its severity, but its fairness. The black market gives exactly what it promises. No more, no less. Every consequence is technically avoidable. Every buyer had a choice. The market never forces anyone to return. It simply makes leaving more expensive than staying. Over time, buyers learn to rationalize. They compare themselves to worse offenders. They justify their actions with necessity. They tell themselves everyone does this, even if they know it is not true. The line between buyer and accomplice blurs. Some buyers become regulars, familiar faces, trusted customers. They receive warnings others do not. Better prices, early access. They feel special, chosen. They do not realize this is another form of payment. Eventually, a moment comes when the buyer recognizes themselves in the merchants. The same caution, the same emotional distance, the same calculations made automatically, without guilt. That moment is often quiet, a decision made without hesitation, a life weighed against convenience and found lacking, a memory dismissed as irrelevant. By then, the price has been paid in full. In the black markets of Warhammer 40K, nothing is free, nothing is forgiven, nothing is forgotten. The Imperium kills quickly. The black market changes you slowly, and slow change is far harder to survive. In the end, the black market does not exist to serve humanity. Humanity exists to serve it. Entire Hive levels vanish overnight, converted into hidden trading hubs. Old manufactorums are stripped bare, their machinery repurposed into storage racks, cages, or strange devices that hum with a life of their own. Space stations, once bustling with legitimate commerce, drift aimlessly through the void, their corridors empty except for faint echoes of deals long completed. Some of these stations continue to broadcast prices, offers, and instructions, even though no one aboard is alive to hear them. Those who think they understand the black market quickly learn they are wrong. It is not a collection of stalls and traders, not a set of rules and codes. It is a living organism, constantly shifting, feeding, and adapting. Every transaction, every favor, every secret exchanged strengthens it, shapes it, and expands it. Buyers, once confident they were in control, become part of it, slowly, imperceptibly, inevitably. The terrifying truth is that the Imperium itself sometimes allows the black market to exist. Officials look the other way. Supply lines are deliberately mismanaged. Investigations are delayed or conveniently misfiled. In a galaxy plagued by endless war, corruption is a tool, crime is a resource. A market that thrives in shadow feeds information upward to those who know how to use it, and hides it from those who would destroy it. No one knows who truly benefits from this arrangement. Perhaps the black market itself decides. Perhaps the Imperium, in its infinite bureaucracy, has learned that some horrors are useful, that some suffering is necessary. Perhaps both. Walk through a black market long enough, and you will notice the signs, not of commerce but of consumption. Traders do not simply sell, they evaluate, they measure, they predict. A buyer is studied for weaknesses, for desires, for limits. The choices you make, the questions you ask, the hesitation before you reach for an item, all of it is noted, stored, and analyzed. No purchase is purely transactional. Every deal is a test. Those who fail the test rarely survive to regret it. Sometimes the punishment is physical. A missing buyer reappears days later in the shadows, altered beyond recognition. Limbs are missing. Skin is fused with machinery. The eyes reflect things that were never meant to be seen. Some are sent back as warnings to others, living proof that curiosity has a price, and that the black market collects debts without mercy. Other punishments are psychological. A buyer wakes to find their memories subtly rearranged. Faces of allies are replaced by strangers. Important instructions are forgotten. Dreams turn into warnings written in languages they cannot read. Fear seeps into every thought until survival itself feels like a fragile lie. Sometimes the market claims more than one life at a time. Entire factions can be manipulated, led unknowingly into traps, and reduced to tools for a larger scheme no one could have predicted. Wars can be influenced quietly, subtly, without a single soldier realizing the hand guiding them belongs to the black market. The most chilling aspect is not these punishments, it is how normal it all feels to those trapped inside. For a long time, buyers and sellers alike convince themselves that their choices are their own, that the market is simply an opportunity, that the cost is fair, that survival is worth the risk, and for a while it is. But the market is patient. It does not rush, it does not panic, it waits, and over the years it consumes those who enter it. First a little trust, then a little knowledge, then loyalty. Finally, the buyers themselves begin to act in service of the market, unaware that they are no longer autonomous. They have become conduits, extensions of the system they once thought to exploit. Entire generations can be shaped this way. Children born into families tied to the black market inherit consequences they never agreed to. They are watched, tested, and guided from birth. They are trained to survive, yes, but also to feed the system. By the time they reach adulthood, the black market has already decided how they will live, who they will trust, and how they will die. Even those who manage to leave the market physically intact carry the marks forever. An instinctive caution, a mistrust of authority, a constant, gnawing suspicion that someone is always watching, judging, calculating their next move. The survivors are rarely content. The memories of what they have seen, what they have done, linger in every shadow. Every decision becomes a reminder of the debt that has already been paid, and the one still coming. And yet, despite all this, the black market grows. It adapts to every attempt to suppress it. Enforcement actions that succeed temporarily lead only to fragmentation. Hidden cells spring up in new locations. Ships, stations, hives, and manufactorums are quietly converted into new nodes. The system is decentralized, recursive, and intelligent. It does not sleep. It does not forgive. It does not forget. The black market is, in essence, immortal. It cannot be destroyed because it has no singular point of failure. It is not merely a market. It is a network of survival, corruption, and influence that spans the Imperium. It thrives in shadow, feeding on desperation, curiosity, and ambition. Those who think they are using it for their own gain eventually realize they were never in control. The system shapes them as much as they shape it. Some say that the ultimate horror of the black market is not what it does to the weak, but what it does to the strong. Those who enter believing they are cunning, experienced, and clever quickly find themselves manipulated by forces they cannot perceive. Traders who consider themselves masters of risk learn that risk is irrelevant. The market does not measure your skill, only your usefulness. Even emperors and high officials, far removed from the trading floors, may find that decisions they thought were autonomous were subtly influenced by rumors, trades, and manipulations initiated in a market they will never see. It is a galaxy of infinite war. Power is the only currency. Survival is the only law. And the black market is the shadow at the heart of it all. Once you step inside, you are never the same. You leave physically intact, perhaps richer, perhaps stronger, perhaps armed with forbidden knowledge. But part of you remains behind, an invisible thread linking you to the network, tied to debts you cannot count, obligations you cannot avoid, consequences that will follow you for the rest of your life. The market is patient. It does not make mistakes. It does not act impulsively. It waits until the moment is perfect to collect its due, and that moment may come decades later. Sometimes the payment is swift and visible. Sometimes it is subtle and invisible. Sometimes it is both. The Imperium does not notice, or it chooses not to. In a galaxy that is vast beyond comprehension, some things are more useful alive than dead. Some horrors are better left hidden. And sometimes, allowing the black market to exist maintains a balance that no army or law could enforce. And so the market continues, silent, watching, adapting, feeding on desperation, loyalty, and ambition. collecting debts, reshaping lives, consuming those who enter. And when you finally realize the truth, when you understand that survival within its walls was never yours to control, you are left with a final, unavoidable understandings. In Warhammer 40,000, the black market does not serve humanity. Humanity serves the black market, and once it has consumed you, it will never let you go.